Hey, welcome to our Midweek Moment. Pastor Nicole here. This week we continued in our sermon series, Behind the Scenes, Popular Scripture Taken Out of Context, and we looked at what one author and theologian said was the most taken out of context quote in the entire Bible. And that is Philippians 4:13, for I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. We talked about the context of this verse and what it really means and kind of what Paul was thinking when he penned those words. But one of the things I didn't maybe touch on as much in the sermon as I wanted to, I just kind of ran out of time, was this idea that this verse can be so dangerous because when we start using it to justify what we want, to say, oh, I can do this because Christ gives me strength to do it. So if I say, I can become an Olympic athlete because Christ will give me the strength to do it. And if we firmly believe that, and if we hold that as a promise from God, and we hold that in our lives, and really truly believe that Christ is going to give us the strength to accomplish whatever it might be that we want to accomplish. What happens when we fail? What happens when we have put all of our hopes and dreams into this promise from God and it doesn't pan out? We can really start to have a difficult relationship with God because we think that God didn't provide for us, that God didn't keep up God's end of the bargain, that God broke this promise that he made to us in Scripture, because it's right there in Scripture, right? That's why it's so important for us to look at the context of what the author is saying with these verses, because when we pluck it out of the Bible and just look at it and we see, it says right there, God will give me the strength to do everything. And what it can really lead us to is a situation of doubt, of anger, of not trusting God. It can lead us to doubt ourselves, to say, wait, if God promises to give me the strength because Christ is in me, what if Christ isn't in me? What if Jesus isn't in my heart? What if Jesus doesn't care about me? What if Jesus isn't functioning in my life the way I want Jesus to function in my life? And that can really be a dangerous thought for us to have, and can really lead us down just a real rabbit hole of doubt, and that is not great. So that's why I think the sermon series like this are so important, because they remind us that, oh, it doesn't say that I can do everything I want to do through Christ who gives me strength, or I can do everything that I've set my mind to through Christ who gives me strength. That's not what it says at all. So maybe it isn't so much about what I want to do and Christ kind of coming alongside and helping me do it, giving me some supernatural strength to do whatever I've set myself to accomplish. Maybe that's not what it's all about. And it's really not. I mean, when we look at the context of that passage, as we talked about in the sermon, it has nothing to do with what we want, has nothing to do with Christ giving us strength in whichever situation we want Christ to give us strength in. It's a very particular situation that Paul is writing about. And that doesn't mean that Christ doesn't give us strength. It doesn't mean that Christ isn't with us and doesn't help us through hard times. Yes, all of those things. And it doesn't mean that we can't keep this verse in our heart and still think like Christ is going to give me strength to get through this. That's not, we don't need to worry about that, I don't think. What we do need to worry about is when we take it a little too far and say, I'm going to become an Olympic athlete and I am going to compete in the 2024 Summer Olympics. Like, That's where it goes too far. When we are putting our own wants and wishes and hopes and dreams and saying, Christ will give me the strength to do it. Christ is going to help me through this. Or if we want maybe a more realistic example of even as a student being like, I don't need to study for this because Christ, I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. And so Christ will help me answer these questions correctly on my test. God isn't a magic genie. Jesus isn't a magic genie that just comes and gives us whatever our hearts desire. And so we really do need to understand the context of these verses so that we aren't treating God like our own personal genie where we're just like rubbing the lamp and saying, hey, I need to pass this test today and I didn't study. And I know that you'll do it because you promised me. Yeah, that's not what it's all about. So if you want to hear more about the context and you didn't get a chance to see the sermon, check it out. You can find it online. I hope it will be helpful and meaningful to you. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of your week. And I hope to see you this Sunday as we look at another one of those verses that we often pluck out of Scripture. And that is, with God, all things are possible. Very similar to Philippians 4:13, but a very different context. So come and hear what that verse is all about. And you can join us in person or online. We love to have you. Have a great rest of the week. See you later.